Hi, welcome to the Culture Curators Podcast. We're here to share insights, information, and resources to help you become a more effective salon and business leader.
Hi everybody, welcome back. We are excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking about optimizing your time as a business owner. There are so many things that are on our plate. I think about when you're at like a sports event and there's someone at halftime and they're like spinning plates and they have one on one finger, two on each toe, like they're all over the place. I think about that a lot as a business owner, that you have so much on your plate. You're constantly spinning plates, so to speak, and learning how to optimize the time that you have and maximize that time is key. So let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, has anybody ever heard themselves say, oh my gosh, I just never have enough time to get everything accomplished that I need to get accomplished? I know I certainly have said that, and Derek, you've probably said that as well. And the reality is, if we truly track our time, you'll be amazed at how much time you actually do have. And so that's the first thing that you really want to take a look at is tracking your time. Where do you spend your time? Where are the time wasters within your day? And so by time wasters, I mean all of the little interruptions that we get throughout the day. If we're maybe sitting in our office and we're working on a schedule or we're working on our profit and loss statement and our door is open or maybe it's closed, inevitably we get knocks on the door, we get people's head poking in saying, hey, you just got a minute? Can I just ask you a quick question? Those are really time wasters because it ruins the flow of what it is that you're doing. And let's face it, you guys, when someone says, do you got a second? It's never a second, right? We're talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, and sometimes longer. And so we need to start to control that and manage that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, when we're hairdressers, a lot of us are creative-based thinkers, right? So we're not going to be the most naturally organized people. Does that mean that's every hairdresser? No, of course not. I'm sure there's many type A hairdressers too that are super organized. But I think for a large majority, from what we find, a lot of owners just struggle with the balance between operating services with clients, handling all of the day-to-day operations that are behind the scenes, working on the numbers, and then dealing with personnel. It's so many different things, right? So I think it really starts with taking a deep breath and being as organized as you possibly can. And also, like for me, what I had to do is I had to get help to get organized. So that's where like coaching comes in an amazing way because it forced me into a structured and regimented kind of schedule of when we were going to connect and what I needed to do in between each call and how I could keep myself kind of aligned with what I needed to do. And you mentioned something before where we hear people say, or you might have said this, I've said it before, where I just can't find the time. And I think that's 100% accurate. And the fact is you'll never find the time. You have to make the time. And when you make the time and you dedicate certain time to certain things and it's in your calendar and it's in your book and everyone's made aware that needs to know, well, then you can start to see really great results from the time that you're using.
Yeah, you can. It's actually one of my most favorite topics to coach around because I know that there's so much time out there. We just have to find it and we have to discover it. And one of the things I love to do is I love to have people schedule their actual week. So maybe it's a Sunday evening and you sit down and you actually schedule what days are you behind the chair or in the treatment room. And then you have your office time, you have your workout time, you have your eating time, your play date time, whatever it is, but you schedule all those in. And then what you're going to see is you're going to see white space. John Maxwell calls it white space. And you're going to see all the opportunities that you have open time. Then you get to write a list and prioritize that list. What are the most important things to accomplish during that week or even during that day? And here's what I find happens a lot of times is the things that are the most important are the things that we don't want to do, right? They're the ones that we'll just push off till tomorrow. The reality is I'm going to challenge each of you to put it at the top of your priority list. Really get that done. If P&L is not your strong suit, but you know you need to do it every single month, you're going to put that in your calendar. Maybe it's going to be the 10th of every month from 9 to 1. You're going to mark it out. That's your P&L time. And it's non-negotiable. If you mark it out, you keep it. So when you have office time, what you're going to do then is you're going to determine what you're going to do in your office time. Maybe 2 hours are going to be spent on one-on-ones. Maybe 1 hour is going to be spent prepping for the team meeting. Maybe 2 hours is going to be spent doing inventory. So you actually have the schedule set and you follow the schedule. You have to be consistent and you have to be disciplined. And I think disciplined is a really key word when we're talking about time management and business ownership.
Yeah, I also think that you have to, overwhelm is a real thing when you're an
Absolutely.
owner. So you have to schedule in me time and
Yep.
self-care time as well. And if you don't, you will quickly burn yourself out. That's a guarantee. So if you, we, like Jill said, workout time, whatever time you have, even daily before your day starts, to get a little bit of just you time that you can like recharge your batteries, get ready for the day. I think that's really key. And then just making sure that, listen, all day long you're going to be pouring into people, but you can't pour from an empty cup, as they say, right? So you have to make sure that you're staying full so that you can, help and that you can lead. So I think that's also a big part of it, just making sure that you're being kind to yourself and knowing, like, you have to know, this is one mistake that I've made in the past, where you got to know what you're capable of in one day. And it can't all get done. And I think a lot of times when you think that it can, you get discouraged when you don't. And then you just kind of throw your hands up in the air to all of it and nothing is done.
Right. I remember being so proud of myself for being able to be processing a color, going to the bathroom, checking my voicemail, having a bite of my sandwich, and, changing the toilet paper roll. I'm certain some of you guys know what I'm talking about. But the reality was I wasn't taking a break. And 10 years ago, I would have said breaks are for sissies. But that's not the case anymore. I realize that, as Derek said, you have to be able to fill up your own cup in order to fill up other people's cups. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to take a break. You have to reprieve from what it is that you're doing. Go outside, take a walk, go to the store, whatever it is that you need to do, whatever it is that fulfills you. Maybe listen to a podcast, and then go back and be refreshed so that you can actually pour into everybody else at the maximum value.
Yeah, and I think recruiting your team, or I'd say enrolling your team into this process, is really important. Because they are going to be used to the way that you've managed your time up until this point. So if you're looking to make a change in the way that you manage it, and you're looking to reset, reorganize, well, you're going to have to let people know that you're going to need their support in doing that.
Yeah.
Right? So if they're used to being able to just kind of knock on that door and, hey, it's not even, hey, do you have a quick five? They just kind of knock on the door, open it, start talking. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you've kind of started, like you've trained people to do that. So it's just pausing and resetting. And it's like, listen, I'm doing my best right now to make sure that I can show up the best for the team, for the business, and I need your support in organizing and keeping myself organized. So from this hour to this hour, I'd love for you to please allow me the space to just do what I have to do back here. If there is an absolute emergency, if the ceiling is on fire, the alarm will go off. I'll hear it and I'll get out with you. But if other than that, if there's no pressing, crazy emergency, then please, I need the next X time. And it's just a request, and you have to stick to it at that point, and then your team will respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember always trying to leave the salon, and inevitably when I'd try to leave the salon, someone would stop me, and they'd have a quick question or whatever, and it's like, if it's an emergency, you absolutely have my undivided attention. However, if it's something that can wait, let's take a look at our calendars. Let's get something scheduled so that I can give you the attention that it needs and warrants.
Yeah.
And not just fly by the seat of the pants, because when I fly by the seat of my pants, I don't always make the best choices. Right. What communication style comes out may not be exactly what it should be, because I may be irritated now because I'm going to be late getting to my appointment or getting to the gym or simply getting home to start dinner for the family. And so let's talk a little bit about what is it that we can do to safeguard some of that time? How is it that we can establish that routine within our culture?
What do you think? What's the first step? I think the first step for me is what I just mentioned before, where it's like enrolling and letting everyone know, hey, this is the shift that I'm making, and here's what I need from you to support. What's another?
I think that again, letting them know if it's an emergency, absolutely. If not, let's book that time out. That's where your white space comes in handy, actually, because if you have white space within your business hours, you allow for that, you know? And so I think that's really, really important. And I think consistency is the key. You know, you say it once, you say it twice, you say it 3 times. They will understand that oh, she's not just, or he's not just doing nothing. They're actually working on the business to better me.
You could say it, say it, say it. If you are not acting it, they're not going to follow it because you're not following through. Your team will follow you on the actions, right? Not just the words. The words and the actions have to align in order for this to work. Another thing that I was just thinking about is when you really set up a consistent one-on-one schedule, like we have had episodes on, we had a really specific episode around one-on-ones. When you have that set up, you already have every other week time set for every single individual. So maybe you take a look at your calendar and you realize, hey, Jill, our one-on-one's actually set up for 2 days from now. Is it a pressing matter or is it something that we can talk about at our one-on-one? And generally, if a team member, from my experience, if they're trying to grab you on your way out, it's not something quick. And
Never.
It might not be something good. You know what I mean? It might not.
Right.
So you have to create a boundary there. So if you have children and you're literally running out the door, like for me, my personal experience is like I'm running out the door because my wife is also a hairdresser. She has the kids. I have to get home so that she can get to her client. We give ourselves a reasonable cushion between like my last and her first. But still, it's like that extra 10, 15, 17 minutes can be the major difference in scrambling and making yourself crazy.
Oh my God.
You know, or have it being like a smooth like pass off. We have a baton. We call her a baby and we basically pass her off and keep moving. So, but that's really important for team members to understand too. Your owner has their own personal stuff going on too. It's not just about your personal stuff. And when we can all understand that about each other, we can be more understanding, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember so many times sweating bullets trying to get to daycare to pick up my son because if I didn't pick him up by 6 o'clock, the time was ticking and so were the dollars. And it would just infuriate me if someone stopped me and it was for no good reason and then I was late and I had to pay the fine and I was late getting my son, which was top priority.
And we see this all the time. It's like, yes, you can get frustrated about that, but in my opinion, you can only get frustrated about it so much because you're allowing it.
I allowed it.
Right? It's
I
like
absolutely
it's
did.
setting it up. It's getting clear about what you expect and what the boundary is.
Right.
And then really following through on it. And again, it's building that rapport with the team where there's a respect factor.
And like you said, letting them know because it's so important. You can't have an expectation without sharing the expectation.
Right.
And absolutely, at the end of the day, if something's not working in your business, you have to look in the mirror. In fact, somebody told me that. I called her one day and I was complaining about something with the team. And she said, Jill, you just need to stop complaining. You need to go look in the mirror, point in the mirror, and you're going to see 4 fingers pointing back at you. And you know what? It pissed me off to hear that. But at the end of the day, when I let it sift through everything, she was absolutely right. It was what I was allowing. Yeah. And in the situation that I was talking about, trying to race out of there to get my child in time, I was allowing the disruption. So it's about setting clear boundaries. It's about defining your time and what it's going to look like and being reasonable. If you guys know you run behind and you need the extra 15 minutes, you have to build that in to your schedule to allow that, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure, and who wants to fail?
Yeah, and if you're not doing the things that we're talking about, if you're not setting up very specific time to work on the business itself and handle things like meeting with your sales rep, maybe monthly, going through the P&L like you mentioned, goal setting for the business itself, maybe tracking numbers, maybe it's bill pay, maybe it's vendor, relationships. I mean, there's so many things, inventory, retail, the list goes on and on, right? So those things have to get done either way, right? So if you're not setting up time for them, they're just happening. Right. And you're like,
or maybe
swirling,
they're not,
or maybe they're not. There's definitely going to be some things that slip, but either way, there's going to be things that you're just kind of doing, and you're going to make yourself crazy like a swirling, and believe me, I'm saying this because I'm like reliving it. Like I remember feeling that swirling, just like I can't catch my breath feeling. And you really have to get a hold of enrolling your team into this process, making sure that there's healthy boundaries that everyone understands. But then it goes right back to that very beginning of what you talked about, where it's setting up specific time that's away from client time. I like it even on a different day, if possible, than clients. But if that's not possible, maybe you're just splitting up. Maybe it's the first few hours of your day. Maybe it's the last few. I don't love that in the middle few, because I just always find it's like there's an opportunity for you to run overtime, for something to happen with a client that is just now that time is gone.
Listen, if there's any gray area, we're really good at wiggling around it and bypassing it altogether. It just is. And the last thing I'll say about it is really to work with your business coach and allow them to hold you accountable to what it is that you say that you want, which is more time. And you want more balance. I don't believe that there's balanced time, but you want more balance. And so write out that schedule and be consistent. Hold yourself accountable. Allow your business coach to hold you accountable as well. And you'll be amazed at how much extra time you truly do have.
Yeah, you really will, especially when you start to trim the fat from things like scrolling on social media. Absolutely. Or just the time consumers, time wasters, like you mentioned earlier. So it's great advice. I really encourage you guys to really think about this. Listen to this episode once or twice to really kind of let it sink in. And just right away, tomorrow, start taking action in your schedule physically. Block it out. Put it in your calendar. I put 2 alerts on each single event to remind me 2 hours before what's about to happen 2 hours from now, to safeguard yourself from, getting distracted. So you can do this. You got this. We will see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Culture Curators Podcast. Please like, comment, follow, and subscribe.